Hello there guys, this is Burkaun here, back in another video, and today I'm going to do What If Deku Have Ultra Instinct Part 7. Hope you enjoy it. So last time we covered Deku training before UA entrance exam and him learning about ki and how to sense it at the event of the entrance exam, and needless to say Deku smashed it. Although his score in the Tier 1 was not as high as the original self from the anime because he have to train, so that's less time for him to study, but at the very least I see him in the top 10. And for the practical one, it was a child's play. He didn't even break a sweat. The only time that he used his full power was to save Oraka and Naofumi. Then we have a weak time skip. Then who got the letter that tell him he gets accepted in UA. And I think that's it for summary. Let's begin. So like usual, he get up, he go to UA. When he arrived, he practically got lost. But after a while he found his class, and the moment he opened the door, he was greeted by a shouting match between Ida and Bakugo. Well, Ida, who's the one was shouting. Bakugo just keep looking at him with a smug face until he meet Deku and his face change. He gets serious all of a sudden and he put his feet on the ground. Then Ida starts walking to Deku and asks him how he know about the rescue points. Deku reply, don't know. Then Deku starts looking at his glass, then he sees someone familiar. They cross eyes and they start walking toward him. Both of them ready their face and everybody is thinking they're going to fight. But the second they throw their punches, they change it to a handshake. And that person is Naofumi. Then he tell him that he's late. Deku tell him, sorry, I got lost. Then Oracle chimed in their conversation and once again thanks Deku for helping her or save her. Deku tell her, you don't need to thank me, you need to thank Naofumi. He's the first to step in to face the 0-point robot. And it's because of his attack that I found you guys. Oraka nods and she thank him. Naofumi blushed slightly and he nods awkwardly. And when Deku see that, he give him a smug look. And before Naofumi can attack him, Deku can sense someone on the ground behind Oraka. He look at the ground and see Aizawa in his larva state. Deku paused for a second. Everybody is just looking at his direction that he's seeing. Then Deku told Aizawa, need a hand? Aizawa shook his head and tell him, I am your homeroom teacher Aizawa Shota. And if you are here to talk and make friends, leave UA right now. Because you're right here to train and become pros, not to make friends. Then he starts standing up and tell them everybody go outside. We are going to do a test right now. They protested a bit and tell him a test in a first day. Aizawa told them, I see how it is. Okay, whoever come last in this test will get expelled immediately. And if you think I cannot do that, I already expelled the whole class before you. So you better use your A game, kids. You have 10 minutes to change, so hurry on. Everyone started arguing between themselves, except for Deku, Naofumi, Momo, and Kirishima. Although Kirishima did complain a bit, so. Meanwhile, Deku put his back on his seat and started walking. Then he sees Jiro, she see him, they get each other and she tell him he's not nervous. Deku shook his head and tell her, I'm used to this. Plus, he's kind of right. We are here to become the best of the best when we graduate. And we only have 3 years, so every minute counts. Everyone sort of understand where Deku coming from. But still, they are 15 years old. They will always complain. But in the other side of the wall, Aizawa is listening closely and he sort of start getting liking to Deku because he somehow see him in the ground before anybody can notice him and he doesn't complain when he is giving orders. So the 5 of them, I mean Deku, Naofumi, Kirishima, Momo and Jiro, are the first to walk outside. And Ida and Oraka are right behind them, and they quickly catch up to them. They start introducing themselves, then Oraka points that the 4 of them seem close to Deku, so they ask where they met him. Momo and Naofumi give her the same story. They meet in a summer vacation. Kirishima tells her that they meet when he protected one of his classmates last year, and from that day they start training in the same dojo. Jiro tells her that they meet at a concert, and she have been training with him for the past 2 weeks in the same dojo. Naofumi grins and tell him, how many girls do you want? You still not satisfied? Then Kirishima chime in and tell him, wait a second, you mean that Momo is one of the two girls that you mentioned? Jiro looked at Deku and tell him, other girls? Momo do the same and tell him, one of the two. Deku is completely lost for words. He starts to stutter and tell them, it's all just a big misunderstanding. And plus they're just messing with me. Naofumi and Kirishima smiles and tell him, of course we are. Deku tell them, why you? And before he can finish his sentence, they start running. Deku yelled at them to come back and he starts running after them. And he does start running after them to tell them to stop running in the hallway. The three girls start looking at each other, then they burst out laughing. So with that, let's say fast forward when they change and arrive at the outdoor field. Naofumi and Kirishima are a bit bruised up, because when Deku catch them, let's say he left them off the hook easy. Although he punched Naofumi a bit more because he knows he can handle it. So with that, let's start with the test. And Deku aced most of them, from the 100-meter dash to the chin-ups. With his quirk and training, he can do almost anything, better than anyone else. And he got 3rd place after Bakugo and Zero in the jumps, or in the jump. There's only one jump, I think, but in my school we did 3, so who knows. But throughout all the tests, Aizawa realized that Deku is holding back, but he didn't say anything. He kept his mouth shut for now. Then it came for the throw ball. Unlike the anime, Bakugo was the first one to throw, and he got 850 meters, more than his original counterpart in My Hero Academia that got 730 meters. And the reason of this increase after Deku saved him from the sludge villain, and he see firsthand how much powerful is Deku, he start training harder, that assuming that he was training in the first place. So he can still fire explosions twice, but they are powerful than his original counterpart. And one by one start doing their turns, and when it's Naofumi's turn, he asks Aizawa if he can charge himself first. Aizawa look complex and tell him, just throw the ball already kid. Naofumi tell him yes sir, then he extend his hand and look at Deku and tell him, can you do me the honor? Deku smiled at him, sure, why not? And he power up 20% and push him straight to the gut. Naofumi thank him, but he tell him that it's a bit too much. Deku smile and tell him, you deserve it. Then he got the ball, throw it, and he got 500 meters. Then it's Oraka's turn, and like we know, she got infinity. And lastly, it's Deku. He power up 20%, throw the ball, and he got 600 meters. Pogo is looking smug, he got 200 meters more than Deku. But Deku is contact with his score, and he start walking back to the group. Aizawa stop him and tell him, are you not taking this test seriously kid? Deku was confused and tell him, what do you mean sir? Aizawa tell him that we all see your true power in entrance exam, so why are you holding back? Deku replied by telling him that his body cannot handle his full power yet. He can only use it for a few minutes at max, but that will not be an effective way to use it during a fight. Aizawa is shocked, speechless. He was thinking that this kid was cocky, but it's the total opposite. He knows his weaknesses and he's not afraid from them, but he's trying to surpass them. Then Aizawa tell him this is the last part of the test. You can use it at least for a second, right? Deku tell him for a second, yeah, I think I can. Then that word start playing in Deku's mind, for a second. Then it hit him. He grabbed the ball, power up 20%, and at the last second, he power up 100% and throw the ball. The same way his original counterpart did with One For All, but without breaking his finger. And it have almost no repercussions. And guys, in this what if I compare Deku 100% to 100% All Might, the old one, not the prime one. And we don't actually know how far he can throw it, so let's say that Deku get 2000, 3000 meters. You know, let's say 3000 because I give him a 20% 600 meters. So I think 3000 meters is a good estimate. And when Aizawa see Deku true strength, he was impressed, but he tried to keep it to himself. He showed Deku the score and everybody start cheering for him. Except for Bakugo, he's livid. Then Deku turned to Aizawa and thanked him. Aizawa told him for what? Deku told him for giving me idea how to use my quirk. So thanks Teach. And before Aizawa can respond, Deku got serious all of a sudden and start looking at Bakugo. Aizawa do the same and he see Bakugo start forming a small explosion in his hand and start running at Deku. And Deku quickly do the same and charge at Bakugo. And because of how fast he's moving, Bakugo was taken off guard. Aizawa told them to stop. And the second he did it, Deku stopped his attack by stopping his foot an inch away from Bakugo's face. Bakugo is both shocked and angry. He didn't even see his foot coming toward him. Then Deku lowered his feet. Then Aizawa start looking daggers at Bakugo and tell him do that one more time and you got expelled immediately. but he doesn't tell anything to Deku because practically it was self-defense. But he's still suspicious. How did he know that he's going to attack him? Does his core give him sort of sensing abilities or something? It can't be. His eyes were not silver when he was looking at him. And yes, I just said Deku can still sense ki without his quirk, but he can only sense someone is few feet away, like Bakugo right now. Then Aizawa calculated the points and he showed the results. And like he promised, he's going to expel the last place, and it is... Can I get a drum roll? No. Okay, screw it. It's Minata, he got expelled. He starts crying, but Aizawa was having none of it. He tell him pick up his stuff and leave. The only person that was shocked is Momo, because she actually thought that he was joking or just pressuring them. And from the start, let's say the first day, all of them know that Aizawa is serious. There is no screwing around him. And I think that's it for the first day. Nothing eventful happened after that, so everybody returned home. So let's say fast forward to the next day. Everyone is sitting on their seats, then they hear I am here. Then Omat entered the door and he greeted them. Then he told them they're going to do villain versus hero training. They're going to split in teams of 2, and the latter will be split into 2 villains and heroes. Then Ida rose his hand and tell him they are missing 1 person. So there is a team that's going to be 1 person in it. Alma tell him no, we have technically a transfer student. Well, not a transfer student. She was enrolled in UA. She was from class 1B, but after that kid that expelled, she got transferred to your class. Alma tell her to come in, and for the surprise of Deku's group and Deku, it's mine. She introduced herself, and like she expected, Naofumi, Momo and Deku are there. She see Deku, give him a smile and wave at him. Deku did the same, then he felt a sharp glare behind him, and Kirishima and Naofumi looking smug as ever. Then All Might give them their suitcase that have the hero uniforms. Everybody change, and Naofumi hero costume is or looks like Ojiro's one. And for this what if, Deku have the same costume that he had the first day of UA or second day, because he still have the sketchbook of All Might, and his mom surprised him by making him one. And hey, it's his mom, he never say no to his mom. And by the way, if you're asking where is Invisible Girl, she's not in this what if, I replace her by Naofumi. So with that, let's start with the teams. They are the same as the anime. We are only going to change Mineta and Invisible Girl by Naofumi and mine. So it's going to be Momo and mine, Ojiro and Naofumi. So we draw the teams, and it's Deku and Oraka versus Ida and Bakugo. Bakugo is shooting dead grass at Deku, but Deku just looked at him once, shrugged it off and continued talking to Oraka. And that really pissed Bakugo off. He started walking fast toward the building just to start the test and beat Deku. And so he thought, this is a what if Deku, not what if Bakugo. All Might tell everybody to go to the control room to watch them doing the test. Then Deku approaches Oraka to drag her into his fight. Unlike the anime, she tells him not to worry about it. And in this what if, Oraka did not call Deku Deku because they introduced themselves before Bakugo calls him Deku. So I think we should give Deku a new name, and it's up to you guys. Give me a new hero name for Deku. But for now, just call him Deku. And let's continue our story. When they enter the building, Oraka tells him that this building is huge. It will take some time to search every room. Deku tells her we don't have to. I know already where they are. Oraka was shocked, telling him how. Deku tell her, you can say that I can sense their presence. Then he put at the ceilings and tell her, they are just above us, maybe a couple floors up. Oraka tell him, great, so let's surprise them. Deku tell her, no, there's only 1 person guarding the bomb. The other one is searching for us, and he's close. And I think it's Bakugo. And like he expected, after a couple of minutes, Bakugo shows up. He starts going on a rant that he's going to beat Deku, but Deku is having none of it. He charges at him, do a quick 1-2 combo and knock him out. And I know some of you guys will tell me that's a bit too much. Well, it's not. In the original anime, Bakugo, after all his training, he was having some troubles with 8% one for all Deku. And that Deku didn't have any sort of training or martial arts training, so his move was easy to read. But this Deku have power equal or just under 20% of one for all, and more than enough skills. He was going toe-to-toe with his master. So after well-placed powerful hits, Bakugo is out of the match. For now, everyone is shocked except everyone that knows Deku personally. Then Deku tells Oraka to follow him. He only have Ida left. And they quickly out of the door. Deku thinks for a second, then he tells her, I'm going to distract him and you grab the bomb. Uraraka nods, then Deku opened the door, show himself to Ida, and start firing small and not that harmful key blast at him, making him dodge and push him away from the bomb. And when he realized what's going on, it's too late. Uraraka grabbed the bomb and they won. Ida congratulated him on their win, then he told Deku, why didn't you just jump and grab the bomb? Deku told him, All Might tell us to take this as serious as possible, and if I just jump in and use my power, I can accidentally hit the bomb and it will explode. So I figured if I distract you long enough, Uraraka can grab the bomb and we win. Ida told him, yeah, I think you're right. And right after they said that, a huge explosion destroyed the wall that's in front of them, and from smoke and debris come out Bakugo, starting at Deku, tell him, you coward! You think you're better than me? I'm stronger than you. Deku tell him, can you stop already? The test is over. You lost. Bakugo tell him, I'm not done. I'm not going to lose to you. Then he lifted his hand and loaded his gauntlet. And before All Might can say anything, he fired. Deku got in front of the blast to cover Ida and Uraraka. And after the smoke cleared, they see Deku missing the top half of his costume. But don't worry, he's not shirtless. He's wearing his weighted clothes under it. And that partially saved him. But nonetheless, his hand did get damage and they start to bleed a bit. Deku turned around and asked Uraraka Ida if they're okay. They nod. Deku smiled, then he had enough. All Might is screaming at Bakugo for what he done. Deku slowly approached Bakugo. All Might tell him to stop, but he's not listening. Because of the explosions, his communicator fall off, and he didn't realize that. Deku took a couple of steps, and it looks like he's going to fall off. But the next thing that you know, he speed up toward Bakugo and slam him against the wall, making him throw up. Then he grabbed him by his head and slammed against the ground, over and over again. Then still holding his head, he threw him outside the window and jumped after him. In the middle of the sky, Deku kicked him back to the ground, slamming him, making a small crater. Then he slowly approached him, and the moment he tried to touch him, All Might appeared in front of him and told him, that's enough, young Midoriya. Deku told him, enough, enough. He almost killed them and you did nothing. He deserved more than this. All Might gets serious and told him, young Midoriya, that's enough. Deku grabbed his teeth and started walking away. All Might called for the medical robot to take Bakugo to a recovery guard because he's heavily beaten. Deku on the other hand was escorted by All Might to the control room with Ida and Uraraka in tow. When they enter, Naofumi looked at Deku and told him, you okay? Deku nodded, telling him, yeah, I'm fine. Reply good. Then he kept looking at the screen. After that is the match between Naofumi and Ojiro versus Todoroki and that guy, I completely forgot his name. Unlike the anime, Todoroki frees the whole building, freezing Ojiro and Naofumi in their places. Naofumi immediately tried to punch his way through the ice, but sadly he's not strong enough to do it, and he's not getting enough strength fast enough to break free from it. So Todoroki win this time. By the way, don't get me wrong, Naofumi is strong, but we also know that Todoroki's ice is actually pretty hard to break free from it. So in a 1v1, both of them have a chance of winning. But in this scenario, Todoroki have the upper hand. Then we go the fight between Momo and Mine versus Jiro and Kaminari. Unlike the anime, Momo started barricading the door, but sadly because of Jiro know where they are, Kaminari zapped the whole building and they are shocked and paralyzed, so they won. And with that, I think I'm going to stop it right here. So what do you think is going to happen in next part? And what will happen to Deku and Bakugo because of that fight? Find out in next part. So stay safe out there guys, and peace.